Hello. Okay, mic works. It was muted. Hi everyone, Tom here, and today I'm going to be recreating my WarioWare game in Godot. My WarioWare game was a game called Cheers, where you just have to try and hit your beer mug below another person's beer mug so the beer splashes into it. That was the goal. It was a game I made over the course of maybe like several months whenever I'd be at airports and stuff on DS with WarioWare DIY. I guess it was back in, I don't know, it was like, the game came out around 2010, and I think I did it a few years later. But it helped, one of the steps that spurred me back into making games more. Uh, And so, as Kiss My Flapjack says, well, this is dangerously close to the rumored date of the Switch 2 reveal. Hope you don't plan on mercilessly taking Nintendo's thunder. No, I don't think Nintendo was anything to worry about there. Uh, yeah, but with that, I'll probably start. I don't know if I can actually show the game itself. I do have my DS here. Part of it, though, is I was trying to set up my other camera, and it is kind of tricky to get two at once, but I'll fire it up and take a quick look. Let's see. Classic intro. I guess, let's see if I can go camera only for this. Oh, I'm gone. Okay. Fire through the DS, always, I can almost see it. It's not bad. I think once I'm in the game itself, I can actually tap easier. Okay, yeah. I always love the music for this. You get to choose, kind of like save your game and edit it. WarioWare let you have different objects, create music in it. Let's just play it. So it's pretty simple. It's actually worse than what I thought. And I'll try to hit the beer. So I'm actually on the right. You would think I would be on the left. I'll try again. I gotta hit the center of the screen. So I lost that one. Missed. That's another thing that can happen. It's very confusing with a flip. So, like, obviously, I think it'd be better if the player was on the left, and I was thinking of adding an arm in. That might have been something from Thank Goodness You're Here, with the kind of silly long arms in that game. But yeah, that's about it. I'll try it for a little bit, and I don't think I can do it all today. Because I was kind of starting. I took a little look at Godot, and it is a lot different than Game Maker. Maybe it's closer to Unity, but I haven't used that much, so we'll just see. Probably something. I'll switch over back over to here. Hi, HBR Shredder. Hayden, how's it going? Hi. Oh, well, that's great. How is it? Maybe maybe if I'm struggling, you can give me a hand. I'm just starting out. So, have you got? Have you been trying 3D in it or 2D? Okay, so that is easier to get going for a game, and no, that's good to hear. You already started. Oh, Brachy's tutorial. All right, might check that one out later. Oh, hi Yerk, how's it going? Yeah, I thought I would try Godot first, and then I'll move to maybe Playdate or Unreal next. I'm famous last words, but I thought Godot might be a little easier in this busy month, but we'll see. Probably everything has different challenges. Okay, well, I'll just yeah, I thought it'd be a fun. Oh, you're curious about trying out Godot as well? Well, you can do 3D, so. But yeah, starting out at 2D here, and trying to create my silly Cheers video game that actually was, of course, in my mind. Did a remastered version in my memory. It's actually not as good as I thought. Okay, well, you say it looks nice, and Unreal has a lot of problems we've been running into. Well, that's too bad. I'm sure, though, like, is that because Unreal has so much to it, or just problems with the engine itself? Yeah, but all right, thank you to you both for dropping by. Yeah, New York, don't you have like a big animation to finish up, or is it rendering right now? This is normally easier on the drawing tablet, but I'll just wing it here. Okay, I can remove all that. Oh, okay. Okay, let's just flatten that, and we can bring in Godot. It's gonna, maybe I'll just delete the hand here, or delete the arm. Anyway. This should be fine. We'll go. I'll just save this. Beer glass. And probably make it way smaller because that's going to be huge right now. Oh, it could probably be this big. Yeah, I guess we are thinking about having a day soon just to have everyone try out their games in the Carpoon Discord. Either of you, of course, want to try your game at any time, let me know. So I was just, what tutorial I was doing? It's a Godot engine tutorial. Just for creating the player and stuff. It's neat how it has different nodes. Yeah, but I will see about just importing this. And I think this, because this is me trying Godot for the first time, it's not going to be as smooth as GameMaker. Yeah, everything's nodes. I guess like Unreal kind of has nodes. Okay. Is it just a video tutorial? I guess it would have to be. Brachy's Godot tutorial. Alright, let's is it this one here with the little knight guy? Alright, well, thank you, Hayden. I think my desktop audio is, of course, on my headphones right now. It's probably a little quiet. We'll see. Whoa, that's way too far ahead.
But other than that, we're ready to open up Godot. So let's double click it, and it's going to ask us
I can
if
still
we
hear
want to look
barely.
at some example.
Oh, well, this is me now putting it through.
I'll just press cancel. Then we can press new. Name our project, say first game.
It's minus 20
I'm gonna
decibels.
place mine on my desktop under my games folder. And let's create a separate
Okay,
folder
great.
for first game. So hit create folder and create an edit. And here we are, a clean slate, a blank canvas. Oh, I am so ready to make this game about. Well, this might be a good time to decide what our game will be about. But first, this video is sponsored by Zenva. If you're excited about Godot 4,
Everyone go to
check
Zenva
out
now.
Zenva Academy. They offer comprehensive beginner and intermediate courses, including a fantastic free introductory course on Godot. What's really cool about Zenva
We're
is
just
how they
helping
combine fun
Brackies
and practical
out.
learning through professional video tutorials, written lessons, and interactive quizzes. Plus, you'll be building real projects across various genres, from RPGs to bullet hells. Zenva also has a wide range of courses on Python, Unity, Unreal, and other essential tools. With a single subscription, which includes a 7-day free trial, you unlock over 250 courses. Use the coupon code below to
You
get
paid
20%
money to get a
off the
worse
first year of
tutorial
your
than one you're
single
currently watching,
subscription
yeah.
on top of any existing site-wide discounts. The offer is valid for the first 50 subscribers, so make sure to use your coupon today to start your game dev adventure. So, in the spirit of learning the basics of the engine and giving you an overview of how you can start using it to make things, I've put together the most basic game I could imagine. Think of it like food without salt. It doesn't have much flavor, but it does have a player, enemies,
Okay.
moving platforms.
He says this is the
collectible
most
coins, and
basic
most
game you can
importantly, this should
imagine,
get
but
you
the
familiar
most
with the
basic
engine in
game
no time.
is always
Also,
Pong.
we'll be working in 2D, but another
Or
really cool thing
Whack-A-Mole.
about Godot is that it's very easy to transfer 2D concepts to 3D. So don't worry, if your dream game is in 3D, most of what you learn here is going to directly apply. As for programming, Godot uses its own scripting language called GDScript. It's pretty fast and easy to use, but still quite powerful. We'll do a bit of programming in this video to get you started, but the main focus is really to get familiar with Godot as a whole and to quickly get a game up and running. Because of this, I don't expect you to fully understand all the code you see. Feel free to write after me or just lean back and observe. Our next video will be about learning to program in GDScript. Alright, I promised you food without salt, so let's get cooking.
Alright. Okay, so here's
I'll just play
nodes.
a sound or
I
add
might
physics.
watch the whole
And we can
thing
even
later.
extend existing nodes to build more
Yeah,
powerful
chapter
ones.
3.
So in its essence, making a game
for
in
a
Godot
player,
is
right?
combining and extending nodes to get the result we're looking for. It's a super creative and
Or is this
fun
whole
process.
video
But
one
building
chapter?
everything in one big world with nodes for the player, enemies, UI, and a bunch of levels all in one place would quickly become completely unmanageable and confusing. Instead, we use scenes.
Okay.
Scenes allow us to bundle together nodes into reusable packages. A scene can be a character, a weapon, a menu. They can be as small as a single collectible coin or an entire level. Scenes make it really easy to focus on building one part of our game at a time, and then slowly combining them to make our game larger and larger. This is because we can put scenes inside of other scenes, which is
Okay, scenes inside scenes. That's a little different than rooms in Game Maker. Game Maker, because a room is just like a level there.
This is called nesting and allows us to take, say, a player scene, a platform scene, and a collectible coin scene and put them all inside of another scene, say a
Go.
level 1 scene.
Okay.
And even cooler, since scenes are reusable, we can make a scene only once and then use it all over our game. We can make many levels that all use the same collectible coin scene. And if we want to change something about our coin, we simply edit the scene and it automatically updates everywhere else. As you can see, all the nodes and scenes in our game start to resemble a tree-like structure. And that's exactly what we call it, the scene tree. And fittingly, we call the node at the very beginning of the tree the root. So now that we know a bit about how Godot works, let's start by making the most.
Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. I would worry about moving nodes around, but maybe you can drag a whole bunch to another area. But inheritance would be super obvious in this, because that's something that can be a bit buried in Game Maker and also doesn't happen automatically.
Most essential part of our game, the player character.
Like, oh god, it's in 3D.
So let's create a scene where we'll put everything together. This is going to be a 2D game, so I'll select 2D scene. And let's rename this from Node 2D to Game. And even though it's empty, let's go ahead and save it. So hit Ctrl S, go under Scenes, and let's save it here. And now we can actually play our game. It's not going to be very exciting, but let's try it out. So let's hit play up here, or simply press F5. It's going to tell us that we haven't selected a main scene. We need to tell Godot which scene to run.
Oh, so I have to get the assets. Well, I did put some in from another tutorial, but maybe there's a better way to do it. The description. Okay, we'll go there. I was hoping like the player, sort of say how to move a player around, and then I can maybe like, I don't know, like somehow mesh it to just my character. But I'll see. I'll get the assets. I'll see if I can open like the tutorial view in another screen here. We'll switch drawing to tutorial view. Nope. We need a window. YT. Yeah, here we go. It'll be kind of small, but we'll see. This way, whoa, everything. I hate when Windows does that. Yeah, this way I can take advantage of 2 monitors. So Hayden, have you done the whole tutorial so far? Oh. No, that's fine. Have you run into any... So you haven't... The thing I love about videos is none of that, like, what did he do? Because then... Usually in like a tutorial on a web page, at some point they just skip over something they assume you know, but you don't. That's one thing I do like about video tutorials now. They can be longer, but they're better for that aspect. Okay, let me see. I got followed by my friend on itch.io. I was like, what? Yeah. Okay. Oh, let's see. Okay, I'll give him $2 later if it's interesting, and when I'm not writing potential password information on stream. So I had some good news this week. When I move, I will have internet right away, apparently. So that's nice. I remember moving here and not having internet for like 2 weeks. And part of it was just waiting. Part of it was like we brought in one company that sort of sublet internet from another company, and then so that other company shows up and I couldn't open a door for them in the building, and they said it was done when it wasn't. So that's my fault on that, kind of, but they gave me no notice. Let's see how we bring these assets in, though, the proper way.
Now to make our delicious game,
maybe it detected it already. That's kind of neat.
We need things like sprites, models, textures, and sounds.
It's going to be annoying with the
and a game engine like Godot is not so much made for creating these
folder
from scratch,
and a folder,
but more for putting everything together. It's really the stirring part of making a game. Now, since I can't expect you to go shopping for assets at your local supermarket, I've used a bit of TV magic to prepare some beforehand. You can download them for...
So I'll say one person that's been making games, Gray Stripe in the Carpoon Discord, he shows them sometimes and online. He'll use assets and he'll mock it up super quickly. He made one in a week last week that looked really good.
Free using the link below. I've bundled together sprites from the amazing Analog Studios and modified them a bit, along with a pixel font, some custom sounds, and a cute little music track. It's also perfectly fine to use other assets you find on the internet. There are many great resources for free assets, just make sure you check the license and give proper credit to the author. CC0 means that the asset is completely free to use and there's no requirement to credit. That being said, making your own asset...
The Kenny assets there, I heard about that. It's like a massive asset pack that I think has a Patreon to it. I believe Mark Brown from GMTK used it for a platforming sort of tutorial he put together.
This is one of the places where you can really get creative, and I highly recommend you try it out as soon as you feel comfortable. Remember, you can always use these assets as placeholders and then modify or replace them later. Alright, let's get our assets into Godot.
Importing
Oh, that's
assets
what
in
I
Godot
do.
is extremely simple. The file system window is where we have all the files we use in our game. By default, the only thing in here is the Godot icon. So let's create a folder where we can put our assets. Let's right click, new folder, and name it assets. Let's also make one for scripts and scenes that we can use later. Now we can simply drag and drop our assets into the asset folder. So I'll select the assets folder, open up my assets here. I'm going to select all the subfolders and click and drag them into Godot. And voila! We can now see and use all of our assets in Godot. So now we're ready to make our...
So with me, I guess I had already set that up following the Godot tutorial, so that's why they're all there automatically just when I put in the folder on my computer. So that was handy.
Our game. So let's talk about how we do that.
Back to player 1.
Player 1.0. So let's create a scene where we'll put everything together. This is going to be a 2D game, so I'll select 2D scene. And let's rename this from Node 2D to game. And even though it's empty, let's go ahead and save it. So hit Control S, go under scenes.
I find it handy almost to leave it the node names under it. So I'm sure later you can get used to these little icons up top. But for now, like later when I create it, it'll be handy for reference.
And let's save it here. And now we can actually play our game. It's not going to be very exciting, but let's try it out. So let's hit play up here, or simply...
I admittedly did not notice that play button earlier. Yeah, nothing wrong with being verbose. No, nothing at all. Like, I'd rather have a deeper tutorial than a shorter one. And especially he's added chapters in here. That's really handy for going around. So this one was more of a vertical game. I'm sure that I was working on before. I'll change the resolution. Also for WarioWare, it's 4:3, so we'll change that. Oh, naming conventions. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, I have some like variables now in Carpoon. Instead of like leaving a description in it and hoping I remember it later, I'll make it like a 4-word variable to try to keep track of it. Because I mean, if you use it elsewhere, then you have to also remember where it goes elsewhere, what it is, and it just makes it handier. And yeah, let's see how it goes.
We press F5. It's going to tell us that we haven't selected a main scene. We need to tell Godot which scene to run. I'm just going to press select current, and you can see that our game scene becomes blue to let us know that this is now our main scene. And as you can see, not much is happening here. So let's stop playing by hitting the stop icon here or pressing F8. And let's put in...
Okay, way down at the bottom that I think you can't even see because of my 16:10 resolution. Yeah, it did make it blue. That's a weird scene name. Let's call it main scene. I don't think it's actually a node here. It's probably just main scene. That's probably really handy for having stuff like the UI and stuff in it, like for titles and whatnot.
A player to make it more exciting. So first off, let's create a new scene by hitting the plus sign up here, and this will be our player scene. And the root node for our player is going to be what is called a character body 2D. So
okay, this is a bit different. Scenes for a player. I guess it'll make sense later, but it's probably an easy way to visualize it. I think Unreal kind of had this. We'll see.
But let's add a new node by pressing the plus here or hitting Control A, and let's search for character body 2D. As you can see, this is a 2D physics body that is specialized for characters moved by script. So it's perfect for a player character that we want to be able to collide with the environment. So let's hit create, And now we can see our node here, but we can't actually see our player in the scene. So let's add some.
Oh, do I have any experience with Blender? Very little. I only did some during the pandemic. So that's something I have to get back into. Like in the past, I think a long time ago, I did 3D Studio and a little bit of Maya. So hopefully Blender itself won't be that hard to get into. I think there's another one, ZBrush as well. That's pretty neat. No, but have you been wanting to try that out? I mean, I hear Blender is almost like people do use it instead of Maya, so it is an option, especially because it's free and not the Maya subscription fee.
Graphics. Let's add another node. I'm going to hit Control A.
Oh, and there was advice at a indie meetup this month by a guy who could model really fast that just doing the Blender donut tutorial is fine. So no need to make fun of the Blender donut tutorial.
And let's search for sprite. And as you can see, we can choose a single sprite, or in our case, we want to create an animated character. So let's choose the animated sprite 2D.
Yeah, I think Blender could be really good for making 3D cars and rotating around too. So
sprites are just what we call images in our 2D world. Now, with this node selected, we can use the inspector here on the right to change properties on that node. If we select a different node, say our character body 2D, we can now see the properties on that node instead. So our inspector allows us to change things about a node. In our animated sprite 2D, we want to add some animations, and we want to give it some sprite frames, the individual frames that will make up our animation. Let's click here and add a new sprite frames. And now with this selected, we can see that it will open up the sprite frames window at the bottom. And in this window, we're going to press this tiny.
hold on, the window is buried in the UI. Here we go.
Icon here that lets us add frames from a sprite sheet. So let's click that, go into our assets, under our sprites, and let's find our knight.png. And as you can see, I've gone ahead and packed all the different sprite frames of the knight's animation into a single image. This is called a sprite sheet. It's a very efficient way of working with lots of sprites, such as when doing animation. Otherwise, we would have to create an image for each single frame, which would quickly become an unmanageable amount of files. Now, to start adding these frames in, we first need to configure the grid here. Currently, it's set to 4 by 4. Let's go ahead and increase this. I've created an 8 by 8 grid here. And as you can see, each frame now has its own grid cell. And let's just start by adding the idle animation. To do this, we simply click the frames in the order that we would like. So I'm going to go from the left-hand side here and click. As you can see, it says this to 0, the first frame. Then I'm going to click the next one.
This is kind of neat. I'll admit in Carpoon, every single sprite is its own individual image. And yes, it is a little unmanageable. I'm not sure if GameMaker does this, but it probably does allow it.
One and the next one and the next one. And now it goes from 0 to 3 and we'll play from left to right. We can always click again to remove. And this is how you can quickly build an animation from different parts of your sprite sheet. So I'll select these 4 frames and hit add frames. Now let's hit F to center our character on the screen. And I'm going to use the scroll wheel to zoom in. We can also click and drag with the middle mouse button to pan. Now our character looks weirdly blurry. That's because we're working with pixel art, which requires really hard edges. By default, Godot is going to try to do some texture smoothing to make textures look better, but applied to pixel art, that is definitely not the case. So let's simply disable this. So let's go to Project, Project Settings. Let's go under Rendering to Textures. And here on the default texture filter, let's change this from linear to nearest, which will immediately make our pixel art look crisp. Then we can
So this I might have to change later when I go back to drawings. So let's see.
Select our animated sprite, and let's try playing the animation. That looks great. I'm going to increase the FPS here to 10 to make it go a bit faster. I'm also going to rename the animation here to idle.
Stuff like this is in GameMaker a little bit. Okay, let's see. I want to play it here. Whoop. That's a cute sprite. Yeah, I'll open Carpoon and so show some of the perspective frames I did recently after. Let me. This is I don't know if it competes with this though. This is pretty fun. Okay, yeah, let's see. So GameMaker, fun thing for Global Game Jam, I'll probably have to review GameMaker, just send up Project 2, because we might end up using that. It's like I was hoping to use something else. Hello, Kelvin. Thank you for dropping by. I'm trying to learn Godot today, and HPR Shredder here has also done a bit of it and recommended this Brachy's tutorial. Hayden, Calvin's making a pretty neat game that I don't want to say right now because he hasn't officially announced it yet. But it's really good. It's advanced, if you will.
I'm going to enable autoplay to make sure it plays right
He's
when
headed.
we start the game.
Yeah, he changed his name to the Sun at one point, and it really threw me to a loop. Or for a loop.
And finally, I'm going to take the sprite here and move it up to make it kind of stand on this line.
Oh, there's our 0 boundary. That's always finicky. Yeah, so this will slowly open.
And that's it for our graphics for now. We'll add more animations later. But as you can see, we're currently getting this.
Calvin, does GameMaker have sprite sheets? Because this is out from a sprite sheet. It's kind of neat. Let me. Oh, yeah, I put it in a totally different place. Let me open. Well, you know what a sprite sheet is, but this is just completely made out of sprite sheet.
Warning here in the scene view. And if I hover over it, it's going to say that this node has no shape, so it can't collide or interact with other objects.
Oh, so in your game, it's all made of individual sprites too? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean too. Yeah, so in GameMaker. Like, this is like the sprite, if I make it have a speed. This is kind of like sprites in GameMaker. But then you have to remember it and put it back into the... I guess there is a little bit of reference here because it's this button. But I think Godot does it a bit more directly. Anyway, back to Godot.
And this is because a character body 2D is a physics node. And whenever we're working...
Can't wait for Brachy's to make this demonetized, but little does he know there's no monetization.
With physics, we need to define a shape that the physics engine can work with. So let's add a new node.
Oh, so you make sheets, but GameMaker cut it up. Okay, so that's like this, because Godot cut up all these images too. So
I'm gonna press the plus sign here. I'm gonna search for collision shape 2D, hit create.
yeah, well, thanks for dropping by. Take care of your life stuff.
And here in the inspector, we can now define a new shape. I'm gonna add a circle shape. I'm gonna make this.
Ah, in the wrong window. Circles are pretty handy. In Carpoon, some of the collision objects are a bit more round, so yeah, it's easier for things to kind of go by each other than a rectangle where they just get caught on edges.
Colliders rarely need to be very precise, and it's a good rule of thumb to make them a bit smaller than the graphics if you need to. Having colliders that are too large is simply going to be frustrating when playing. So let's now rename the top node here to player, and let's save the scene. Control S, as player, hit save, and now we can go into our game scene and simply drag our player in here. So I'm going to go to the top here and drag in the player. We also need to create a camera so that we can control what is currently being shown. So let's add a new node, hit Control A, search for camera 2D, hit create, and now if we press F, we can see that we have this huge camera viewport. This is definitely currently too large.
That is a very tiny sprite compared to the what the other tutorial had. Okay.
So let's zoom in.
Yeah. So used to holding control and the mouse wheel to zoom out, but it's just mouse wheel here. Okay, I'm gonna have to change the. He'll probably go on the camera here, but I'll change it to rectangular.
In on our camera, I'm gonna set the zoom here to 4x4 and simply click and drag our camera to be on top of the player. And now we can try playing our.
Oh, can I drag it? Okay, using the arrow keys. Okay, let's see about changing it back to a rectangle. Whoa. Classic, very low resolution game. Oh, didn't save it yet. Oh, this is interesting. The first mini roadblock, although it doesn't matter. I think it'd just be easier if I have a rectangle. Let me see if I can find. Go back to here. And this Godot tutorial we changed at one point, so I'll just take a quick look. Okay, well, that where I was the only place where it changed, so that's kind of interesting. It's possible too the camera when it's actually in game will change, but we'll see. Yeah, it's fine in game. So it's just the box stayed tall when it's not actually that way.
The game. And there you go. We now have a player that is playing an idle animation and nothing else is happening. That's because we need to add a script that allows us to move around.
Oh no, it's not animating. Let's see. I missed what keeps it running, maybe? Okay, at 14:01, let's go back here.
Go to project, project settings. Let's increase this. That's because we're working with pixel art, which requires real play from left to right. We can always click again to remove, and this is how you can quickly build an animation from different parts of your sprite sheet. So I'll select these 4 frames and hit add frames. Now let's hit F to center our character on the screen, and I'm going to use the scroll wheel to zoom in. We can also click and drag with the middle mouse button to pan. Now our character looks weirdly blurry. That's because we're working with pixel art, which requires really hard edges. By default, Godot is going to try to do some texture smoothing to make textures look better, but applied to pixel art, that is definitely not the case. So let's simply disable this. So let's go to project, project settings. Let's go under rendering to textures. And here on the default texture filter, let's change this from linear to nearest, which will...
Oh yeah, it is sharp, but what happened is it's not animating in the game. So I'm wondering if I missed a step at some point. It's just static.
Will immediately make our animation. That looks great. I'm going to increase the FPS here to 10 to make it go a bit faster. I'm also going to rename the animation here to idle. I'm going to enable autoplay to make sure it plays right when...
There it is. That's what I missed. I missed autoplay. Idle. Let's take a look if it's animated now. I love how fast it compiles, but it is a very simple project. There we go. Okay, back to the 14-minute mark. I guess I won't be able to fully say until I get a player moving and I get interactions going behind them. But very early impressions, it might be easier to keep track of everything. But I think of different scenes and stuff, and it, like kind of the node structure. It's kind of like a tree branching out. It might be easier. While Game Maker, for me, has become just like a giant mess where I just search and find things. But that's also from having a project for many years. It could be the way it goes in Godot too if I'm not careful and manage the project. But no, neat how I like how everything is interacting together here. It's like it seems very straightforward. Yeah, I assume any project becomes a giant mess at some point. Yeah, very true. No, I guess this is like a handy way to create an object and just put everything in. Like Game Maker, I'll have different nodes and stuff too that I don't use. I use more of the coding. So we'll see what coding's like in here for that too.
Round. So let's close our game, go into our player scene, and with our player node selected, let's press this Add Script button. Here we can choose a template. Of course, we're going to do some programming in this video, but
Go, attach node script. I clicked a different button.
player movement can quickly become a bit overwhelming. So for now, we'll use the basic movement template provided by Godot. Then later, we'll go in and modify it to play different animations and rebind input to the keys we'd like to use. As for the path here, I'm going to make sure that we put this inside of our scripts folder, and let's just name it player. Let's hit create, and as you can see,
Okay, well, of course, yeah. Always take care of your work first, but thank you for dropping by. I look forward to talking to you about Godot later. Oh, this is a pretty good visual editor.
this creates a script that will move around our character. I know that this might look really confusing at first, but don't worry, we'll have a look at what all this means later. For now, let's just try playing. And our player immediately falls off the screen. That's because
yeah, the game gravity.
we need to give him a collider to stand on. Right now, our player has a collider, but it doesn't have anything to collide with. So in our game, I'm going to go back to the 2D view at the top.
I assume this 2D and 3D. I wonder if 2D and top D was made in Godot. I think it was Game Maker, but like they could have just been looking at that and created the idea.
Up here, this is where we can change from script view to 2D. Let's add a new node. So let's hit the plus sign. Let's add a static body 2D, and this is another.
Okay, let's add this. Let's add floor and see where it goes
Type
first.
of physics body. It's the one we use for things that don't need to move. That's why it's called static. So it's perfect for creating some ground. Let's hit create, and again, this is going to.
So this is the one I had been working on for another one. We can. Oh, that's the current one. Here we go.
To give us this warning here that it needs a shape. So let's add a collision shape. So I'm going to hit Control A, search for collision shape.
It's handy with Control A.
And for the shape here, we.
Oh, we didn't skip too far ahead. Hopefully doing this makes it really easy to, it's probably a world boundary, to put together my WarioWare
Extend
stage.
infinitely on the horizontal.
Okay. Got an infinite plane going. We're gonna have a drop down.
Boundary shape. The world boundary is a type of collider that is perfect for stuff like, well, world boundaries, because it's going to extend infinitely on the horizontal axis here. So as you can see, it's currently pointing up. We could also point it to the side here, and now it's going to extend infinitely on the vertical. I'm going to hit Ctrl Z to undo that. Instead, I'm going to select the entire static body here. I'm going to change to the Move tool by pressing this icon here or simply W on the keyboard. And I'm going to move it down under our character. Then I'm going to go back to our Select tool, which is here, or simply press Q. And while our collider doesn't have any graphics, it's going to be invisible. We can now play, and there we go. Our player now gently.
All right, you don't have to extend it. It's infinite. That's cool. Oh, this only key. They don't do WASD. Just regular keys. And the camera doesn't follow, of course, but I'm sure that'll be soon. He is quick by default. Does he jump? Yep, they have a jump with space. Some air control. Let me move it over. That's pretty handy just to put that in for a quick prototype. We need to see how you modify it later. That's almost too easy. It's too easy to get to that point.
It lands on the collider, and we can move around using the arrow keys and jump with the spacebar. Now our player is maybe a bit too fast, and I think his jump is a bit too high, so let's modify our script to change that. Let's close our game, go into our script, and at the top here there are two constants that we can modify, our speed as well as our jump velocity. So I'm going to set this.
Yeah, that makes, so it's like Game Maker then with the speed being negative 400, where probably the Y value increases as you go down.
The speed to something less like 130 and the jump velocity to say negative 300. And now when we play, it looks and feels a lot.
Okay. That'd be, got it mixed up there. Let's see. The sprite doesn't flip yet though. That's something else to be added in. Does look more in line with the feather.
Better. So our player is moving around, but currently there's not much to look at. So let's build a world to explore. World building 1.0. So to build our world, let's begin by removing our collider here. We're going to build an actual ground for him to stand on. And let's instead add a tile map node. So let's press new node. And search for tile map. Now, the most common way to create levels in 2D is by using tiles. In other words, we build our game world by drawing different tiles onto a grid. This is a great way to work because we can create a lot of varied levels using.
So tiles merely is something I don't use in Carpoon. I've used them a few times in the past, but not in any recent ones, so I won't be able to comment as much on how they differ here.
Just a few tiles. The tile.
Well, in Carpoon, I guess that's not totally true. If I open it, the Volcarnage Island, I use tiles as like a easy way to fill in some of the gaps because I have it so objects disappear when they're off the border, or off the edge, and they're kind of so big that sometimes they don't come back in. So let's see, I think, yeah, all these are tiles. You can kind of see the grid. And I have different layers because of the what's in between here with the island. Why is that orange? That makes no sense, but I guess it's covered.
assets we use to paint are normally packed together into one big image, just like our player was. This is called the tile set. So the tile set is a collection of tiles that we can use to paint from, and the tile map that we just created is the node we use to paint these tiles into our world. So to start painting on our tile map, we need to add a tile set. So in our inspector under tile set, we'll create a new tile set, and if we press it here, we get to configure some things about it. The main thing you want to make sure is set correctly is the tile size. The tile set in our asset does indeed have 16 by 16 pixel tiles, so we'll just leave that as is. Now at the bottom here you can see that we have two tabs. We have the tile set and tile map. So before we can start painting with our tile map, let's go into our tile set and configure this property. The main thing we want to do is drag in our tile set asset. So let's go into our assets folder under sprites and drag in the world tileset.png. It's going to ask us if we would like to
Okay.
automatically create tiles in the atlas. We do, so let's press yes. And now let's make some more room here and we can zoom in to view it. And as you can see, it's actually gone ahead and automatically detected the grid cells that have tiles. If for some reason it's made an error, we can always use our eraser here to remove tiles. In this case here, it thinks that the top of the palm tree is a bunch of different tiles. I'm going to use the eraser to get rid of these and instead go out of the erase mode.
That's kind of neat. All right.
And then hold down shift while clicking and dragging to turn this into one big tile.
That's pretty flexible to have a giant tile out of a bunch of them.
It's also split up the trees into 3 different tiles, but in this case it's actually something that we want because it allows us to create trees of varying heights. I'll show you this
That
once
makes
we
sense.
start painting. Other than that, I think it looks good. So with this tile set up, we can now go to our tile map and start painting. Make sure that the scene has the select tool and that the tile map has the paint tool enabled. And now let's simply
Be interesting to see what happens so tiles are made and he doesn't fall through the world.
select a tile and start painting it in. If you make a mistake, you can always right click to remove. So I'm just gonna fast forward through me drawing out the level here. As you can see, I begin
There we go.
by blocking out the most essential game parts, leaving in room for gameplay objects like moving platforms and enemies. And then only once I'm finished with that, I start decorating. A nifty trick here is that you can select multiple tiles at once to paint in more than one. And you can always go into select mode in order to select large chunks and move them.
Okay, let's figure out select mode here. Well, I'll draw. How do you... That's interesting. You gotta draw... It said you can draw many at once, but... Oh, I'm in eraser mode again. That's why. Here we go. Select mode. It's a rectangle select mode. Undo. Don't do that. Oh yeah, just that. Yeah, there's gotta be hotkeys for every one of these. Because you do not want to be recreating millions of little tiles.
Now once I'm ready to start decorating, let me just show you the cool trick with the trees here. So let's say we want to add a tree here at the top. Well, then we can actually just paint the bottom, then choose how tall we want the tree to be, and then paint the top. So that's one of the advantages of working.
Okay, we'll add one more little island with a tree. Oh, and this is going nowhere. Please hold shift and you can draw a weird line. Here we go.
With tiles is that we can also make individual elements really flexible. So once you're happy with the level, let's just go ahead and press play, and our player is going to fall right off. That's because we need to add.
I knew it. I knew. Yeah, not as easy as that.
Physics layer to our tiles. To do this, we go to our tile map, go under our tile set, physics layers, and add a new layer. Then with this
Okay.
layer, we can go under our tile set, and here we need to choose what tiles belong to the physics layer, because we don't want to collide with everything in our tile map. The trees and bushes, we just want to pass right through. So let's go to paint here, and the property that we
Let's get back into the tile set down here somewhere. Here we go. Different tab. So this would be handy, like in Carpoon, when I have the surfboard cars, I kind of have to change the collision detection. But that's partially because they all use physics, because it's kind of hard-coded in with the object they collide against. To have it so a sprite could shift through different collision layers would be very handy. Because that case, I don't want cars driving off into the water, so there's kind of physics all around the island. But then if cars are on the water, they have to be able to go back to it and get off their surfboard and not go out again.
to paint is the physics layer 0 we just created.
Okay.
And now we can actually go ahead and paint onto our tiles these physics settings. So I'm simply going to paint this onto all the different solid tiles. And if you make a mistake and want to remove a tile, we go here, select clear, and now we can paint with no physics, or we can go back to the default tile shape, which is the entire tile, and paint with that. Or simply hit F to do that. So C and F are the shortcuts here. Now there are also some tiles that we do want physics on, but where we need the collider to only be on part of the tile. So
yeah, 2D games. This is kind of neat getting to paint what tiles collide or not. I remember creating a game in Flash, and I had to kind of specify for a tile whether or not you collide in it. So this is a much friendlier interface. No, I'm trying to paint these too and get back into paint. It's just me getting used to the programming language again, or the environment. I'm kind of on erase mode, I think. Try this. There we go, back at it.
Such as our bridge here. So if I zoom in on our bridge, we can see that if I just paint physics onto these, it doesn't look right. Instead, we need to go in and only paint a partial collider. So over here on the left, we can actually modify these colliders to exactly suit our needs. We can even add and remove points by clicking and right-clicking. But in this case, 4 points will do just fine.
Okay, that's really handy because some slopes and stuff will obviously be different. So that's kind of neat. This is the last part you did. Well, this is pretty cool. This is something that'll make slopes much easier, I think. Far easier to recreate Mario 3 now. Although I think matching it could be difficult across different tiles. Well, they do have coordinates. I don't really see a way to write. You can't. I guess it's so small it doesn't matter. Yeah, so here you can choose edit points. Like each. Oh no. Now that's bad in a way to just automatically. Like it's handy, but it's bad if it starts doing that. Yeah, I'm making. I made a stamp. Yeah. I'll just. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that being confusing. Especially if you start going to other tiles and it stops working. Okay, we'll go to this one. Yeah, undo would have also worked. Yeah, that's smart. Smart. Let's try deleting the point. Yeah, this is pretty neat. I think we'll see how much character. So then we can stamp these two. Okay. Now I'm gonna go try to go off of that mode. Okay, how do you... Oh, got the afternoon sun in. How do you deselect the stamp? Maybe he gets into it in the video.
That's a good shape for our collider. Then we can paint these onto the 3 different tiles. And then for the next one here, we can configure it. This slants up a bit. I'm going to paint that on as well. And then for the final one here, let's go ahead and make that go in the opposite direction. And here you actually want to be pretty precise whenever you have an overlap of the colliders here. I think that looks pretty good. This helps avoid that our character gets stuck. I'm also going to take the tile map and drag it to the very top so that we can always find it. And now when we play, we are indeed colliding with our environment.
Oh, he doesn't deselect. Or he does it so fast I didn't notice. I guess here, and then I'll be fine. Yeah. There's got to be a hotkey for that somewhere. But anyway. Oh, undo. There we go. I've almost got it. We'll see. Oh. Hi, Beach. Matthew, thank you. Yeah, I try to do different developer streams for Carpoon. I did many about once a week, and I wanted to shift gears for WarioWare and Godot. I thought it'd be a neat, simple project, but HPR Shredder here, the recommendation, try the brackets tutorial. So I'm going through that, and I'm sure I'll make the tutorial way easier to kind of make my Cheers game. Yeah, just working on a tile map right now. Snaps, I don't think you would need multiple points. Well, these sprites were just from an asset pack, so I didn't make these. I would be probably hand drawing stuff. But yeah, it's very handy from... These are from Brackeys, the platformer bundle. But I know there's like Kenny game sprites too. They're really good. Yeah.
Awesome.
This is just like the part one of trying to learn Godot and put a simple game together.
Now we probably won't.
Let's see how it runs. With code I only edited 2 lines on. That's messing me up not having WASD. Okay, camera does not move yet. Nope. There we go. Oh yeah, I'd love to see the WarioWare DIY games you made later. They're a lot harder to share now, of course, but I'm sure you did much more advanced ones than me. But WarioWare DIY, I think it helped spur me to try making little games again. And it's easier than something like Dreams. Dreams, although you can do anything in it, I think as a result there's a higher learning curve. Although the tutorial for WarioWare I remember was pretty long. I had the Japanese one. I could not figure it out in Japanese at first, so I got the English one.
We want our camera to follow the player because he's currently just running off the screen. So I'm going to make some room here. I'm going to take the camera 2D and simply drag it under the player. Making it a child of the player means that it will just automatically follow the player node.
Oh wow, that's pretty handy. Like in Game Maker you can have a camera follow an object, I believe. Although I don't do that in Carpoon because of multiple cars. So if I can just go here, that's handy for a starting tool. Of course, you get things like look ahead later. Oh, what did I miss? Is that the wrong? Yeah, that's the player area. This is the actual player. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah, I had two, the names were too similar. I'm gonna rename that old. That should make it more obvious. Now this, I bet I can kind of move it forward if I wanted to. If you want to have like a scrolling game. Yeah, just as long as no enemies come behind you. Like in Contra. No! Goodbye. Yeah, and so Peach the other day finished up the new update to the Volcarnage Island music, which sounds far richer than before. So again, that I got that into Carpoon the other day, but I have to make it so with the little, it has a little 6-second intro. I Got to add that in properly, like auto works.
We're going to make sure that the camera is still positioned right on top of the player. And we can even turn on position smoothing to really smooth out our camera follow. So I'm going to enable.
Okay, that's handy. That's like in GameMaker, I coded it so it goes towards the point slowly over time, not instantly. And I think I actually did that a couple times. That way the camera comes to a slow halt. We'll see if it does that here. That's kind of one camera effect. Select the right thing. Position smoothing on.
Position smoothing on the camera.
It's currently 5
with a default
pixels.
speed of 5 pixels. And now when we play, as you can see, our camera smoothly follows.
That's better for jumps for sure. Like jumps are different. Like you can have it so it doesn't follow the character on jumps. You like 10? Let's try 10. Can I? Let's see if we can change it on the fly here without recompiling. I don't know. Let's turn it off. It kind of looks like smoothing's not on there. Let's drag the camera 2D out of it, and then we'll know. Oh yeah. That. So although the compile is super quick, that could be handy later if it does take longer to build. So that's nice. It's right there out of the box. Especially for changing like little variables and tweaking it. That could be much Yeah, well, I just thought of it because that's something super handy with GameMaker Live and GameMaker. So I don't have to spend like 30 seconds, 45 seconds rebuilding. Yeah. So that, like having something where you can just tweak the values immediately makes it quicker. Okay, and back to Peach make the music. Yeah, Peach split the tracks into A and B. So like there's the intro, and then part B, it just loops. But yeah, that way they don't experience the intro all the time. So currently I just have the combined track in, but now I'm going to have to fix it up for the split and make it so my programming doesn't have 2 music tracks at once. So we'll put this back into player character. And we'll try 10 pixels, not 100. Yeah, I think it was Mario World or Mario 3 maybe, where it had like it doesn't follow a jump, but then it follows it once you land on a higher up platform. It's pretty neat. I want to copy some of these tiles and just kind of duplicate the level a bit here. Am I too far out? I already forgot how to paint tiles. Yeah, it's so... Here we go. Okay. You just have to go back to paint tool after that. Let's see. Try to select a whole bunch. Okay. There we go. Yeah, an eyedropper tool is always super handy. Yeah, Peach says copy the setup from the AutoWorks and should be good to go. Yep. Oh, there's a whole bunch saved years ago for WarioWare DIY. That's very interesting. I guess that's like Game Maker Garage had a whole bunch saved too. Or indexed at least. Okay.
Close our player. Awesome. So now we have a first draft of our game world. But so far, everything is stuck to the grid. Let's start adding some dynamic and moving elements, such as platforms. Platforms, some that move and some that don't.
Yeah, I remember because of having Mario 3 at the time, just loving all the different platforms in that game. And I just remember being fascinated by them, like donut lifts or like the donut tiles that fall down, the moving ones that follow a little grid or like a little black line. I guess they kind of improved them a bit in Mario World, but I always remember that being kind of fascinating.
So whenever we are creating a new element of our game, we begin by making a new scene. And for the root node here, I'm going to hit add and search for the animatable body 2D. This is a physics body that we use whenever we want to animate a node.
Yeah, video games could have just stopped after Super Mario Bros. 3. Yeah, I was watching finally watching Tim Rogers' latest review, which is from 2 years ago. Yeah, and even though he's 2 years older than me, he was talking about Super Mario Bros. 3 with his brother. Because, of course, it's being mind-blowing at the time, probably. And that's right, they all could have just stopped. We could just have more games like it. Okay, animatable. All right.
And still
Oh yeah, and I'm still thinking about doing stream of that with the new levels because I've never actually played the new levels, but I just got to make sure it's on Switch and Wii U, and of course Game Boy Advance with a bunch of cards if somehow you manage to do that. But I do not have Game Boy Advance card reader, and yeah, I just got to make sure the controller is good because I don't like some of the sponginess of the D-pad. The controls. Maybe the Pro Controller is fine for it. Do that later once I get a couple other goals set up.
have it collide properly with other nodes in its path, which is perfect for moving platforms that should still collide properly with our player. So let's hit create and let's add some graphics. So Control A, we'll search for sprite and select the sprite 2D. And now we can drag in the texture we want. So let's go under our assets, sprites, and drag in the platforms.png. Let's hit F and zoom in.
Okay, this is handy, just dragging it to there instead of selecting through that window. It's nice you can do it either way.
And as you can see, this is also a sprite sheet and it's currently just displaying all of them. So let's go in and define exactly which one we want to show. We can do this under region, enabled, and hit edit region. And so we can kind of crop out the element that we want to show. I'm going to change the snap mode here to pixel snap, and I'm just going to go for a default grass platform.
Oh, this isn't snapping quite as good here, but should be fine.
That looks good. And now when we close it, we can see our sprite perfectly cropped out.
Oh, here's snap. Great. Pixel might be... well, it's so small, pixels are okay here. This is hard on the dark background.
Again, we have the warning here, so let's go ahead and add a collision shape 2D. For the shape, I'm going to add a rectangle shape, and now we can simply click and drag this to configure.
Okay, I wonder in code here if you can change. Well, I'm sure there's always a way to change the collision shape on the fly. Maybe swap one in and out. I'll say feels intuitive so far. Some things make no sense for a long time. I'm mostly doing this too because I find I suggest to people like, oh, just make a simple Pong game or WarioWare game. So it's like, well, maybe I'll take my own advice. Oh no, the pixel's off by half. Oh, it's okay to be a bit smaller. Although a player's on this, it's probably a capsule shape. It's probably going to tell me to do a capsule shape.
Then let's
yeah, I think he did.
rectangle shape, and now we can
No, it's
simply
rectangle.
click and drag this to
Some of them, though, you can choose a capsule shape, but that would be kind of weird just falling off the edge. I don't think players expect that. Why? It's weird being slightly off like that. Must be how I crop this sprite sheet. That could be a problem later.
configure it. Then let's rename our top node here to platform and save the scene. So Control S. In our scenes folder, hit save. We've actually created our platform. So in our game scene, we can drag it in, go under scenes, find the platform, drag it into wherever we'd like.
Okay, so it shows up as a little scene icon down here. That's kind of neat. But then you'd probably just create another folder eventually to say kind of keep track of all of them. Okay, let's move these tiles up so then we have something to jump to on the platform. So it's a good suggestion, Hayden, to follow this tutorial. I thought it's probably a lot easier than doing one just on a web page. Okay. It's funny, it says put the tile map up top, but that's actually not where I'd expect it. Okay. Select these. Can I move them? Yes. Great.
And let's hit play. And as you can see, it works. However,
Oh, he kind of made it so it doesn't move. Let's see. Can I reach that? No. Oh, I didn't have to close it too. Let's see. Okay, the platform's there. Let's move in the game. Let's go back. Yeah, it moves up. That's. Whoop. I don't think I even have to save to do that. Okay.
One problem right now is that we can't actually jump onto the platform from underneath. To fix this, we turn it into a one-way platform. So in our
That's
platform
cool.
scene, let's select our collision shape and enable one-way collision.
They were thinking about video games when they created this. I don't actually know. Like, if I was programming that in Game Maker, I probably would have thought, like, make sure the player's on top and going down to collide with it. And if he's underneath, don't collide with it. And then you'd have some weird gap in the middle where he's, like, passing through it. That'd be tricky. So this is pretty nice. It's built in.
And now when we play, we can jump.
That's it? All right. I'll copy it and oh yeah, I think I want to make sure I'm not editing one object and like kind of making a duplicate, but I think I'm editing the sort of template for it, and this should be fine. Okay, we can test jumping through it here. Okay. F5 to run, always. We'll have to add WSDN. Probably they have something for coyote time too, is my guess. Now I just need a ton of coins up there.
Onto platforms from underneath. However, the player is currently passing behind the platform. This is because the platform is currently after the player in the tree.
Oh
This
yes,
means that
depth
each
values.
frame, the player is drawn first, and then the platform is drawn on top. We could just move the player in the tree, but I don't want to depend on that. Instead, we fix the draw order by changing the z-index.
Yeah, okay, that's good. It has a Z or Z value, as I might say. The you'd want a player up top to be easy to access. So let's see where that value is.
Player. So in our player scene, we go under ordering and set the z-index to something higher, like 5. By default, all visible nodes have a z-index of 0. Because they all have the same index, they are drawn.
So that's kind of tricky. In Carpoon, I try to sometimes reference variables and like a different z indexes for the ground and players, and base it on their height on the screen. So, Hayden asks, Tom, what are your thoughts on Super Mario Brothers 2 USA? So that I loved the different characters in it. And how they were actually different. They handled differently. It was really tough as a kid. It's probably still tough now. Everything was weird in it. Phanto is one of the most horrifying enemies in all of video games, where you have to go dig your way down and get a key. It's like the build up to it. It's like, I know he's gonna... Doki has no sprinting. I'm gonna have to try that one time. I'll have to try it and see the difference, because I've never actually played the original. And no, it was kind of neat to learn all the new things. Like, think there was like snakes. I love being able to pick up enemies and throw them at other enemies. There are very few power-ups. Peach, or Princess Toadstool at the time, was probably the one I used the most, because of that one. She could float sideways without moving, and the one ice level where I think there's bees coming at you, or some sort of weird fairy with a toothbrush. how you interpret that sprite. Yeah, and it was quite a grind to finish that game. Like Mario 3, like there are warps, but they're easier in Mario 3 than Mario 2. So Bezos. But just like how you interact with things, how you can stack different things. That was all really cool at the time. Like the bosses were really memorable, like Mouser, the snake. Like it was an event when you got to those bosses in kind of a different way than Mario 3. Ice World was hard. Yeah, Ice World's one of the hardest worlds, and like it forced me to use Princess Toadstool at the time, basically. I think I did also use Luigi a lot because Luigi has such a ridiculous long jump. Triclide, okay. Peachy, I'm impressed you know all these just off the top of your head. I didn't have the manual at the time too. That could be part of it. So, no, like stuff like stacking jars. I loved finding secrets. Like, to get the ending, you have to beat it with all 4. There's no ending in Mario 3 and Mario 2 where you beat it with all 4, is there? Because that would be... I never knew that. No, that's a good incentive to beat it with all the characters. Now, to get the ending, are you allowed to... So you're not allowed to cycle through them in each run? Oh yeah, that makes sense, Peach. Like, instruction booklets were amazing back then, so... I wonder if the Mario 1... Like, I didn't get the Mario 1 instruction booklet, really, because it came bundled with the NES, but the Mario 3 one was great. So you can't change in all levels, all 4 characters. In Doki Doki Panic, like, once you select one character, are you locked in from the start? Oh, that's a fascinating piece of history I didn't know. Yeah, I think since I used Luigi, of course, the movement was a bit more slippery. Okay, you can switch characters between worlds. All right. That's a bit more forgiving then. Man, if only there was a video that could communicate all this. Well, I'm sure there will be soon enough. And I'll be there for it. Yeah, not between stages, between worlds. Well, I mean, like if you go to Ice World, you know to switch to Princess Toadstool right at the beginning. Now, oh man, well, I think I forget some of the other worlds later on. Like I think I remember they had quicksand in the desert world, so it is a bit hazy for me. It has been quite some time. Okay, you have to beat each world with each character, and every stage has to be beaten with each character. Yeah, that sounds like a grind. Can you save, or do you have to do this all on one playthrough? Unless you do skips. Yeah, so you can warp or skip with a character. Okay, you can save, yeah, because of the disk drive, I assume. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the magic carpet was always super cool too. When you get the magic carpet in Mario 2, which I think is more thanks to its Doki Doki Panic origins, which I guess did come back in whatever, what's it called, Rainbow Road, or the last level in Mario 64. But it's kind of on a path. You didn't have control over it in that one. Pidgeot. Ah, yes. And what was it? Okay, not only Shy Guys were in that game, but the little Rainbow Cruise. The little dark character, just like 2 eyes, that kind of like going and just jumping. Remember that? And Shy Guys riding ostriches. That was funny. So a lot of neat little moments in that. And no worries, Peach. That was pretty close. You got it. Okay, I want to find this Mario 2 enemy right now. Let's see. Okay, Ninja. Yeah, I should know Ninja, but Ninja's in it. Yeah, Ostro instead of ostrich. Oh, Abizo is just the shy guy. Okay. Yeah, and of course, like exploring the game and just trying to go down any, I guess, magic pot to see what's there. And, the warp's like throwing a door in random places just to see if there's a secret door, or throwing like that magic jar to see if there's one behind it. Like exploring like that was neat. That's like its equivalent of blowing up walls in Zelda. Oh, the toothbrush is just a spear. Okay. Oh, but that's good to know what the difference is. I can try the original one day. But yeah, I hated Wart. I want to redraw my Wart art because when I looked it up, yeah, it's kind of dated at this point. Like I'm like, oh, I could draw better than that. So I want to redraw my Wart where I shoved vegetables down his throat, basically in the drawing. They're not called Shy Guys in Doki. Oh yeah, no, they have a different name. That's interesting. I wonder why they'd want to change the name. Birdo's not Birdo, it's Catherine. I wonder if there's a hint for that in Captain Rainbow, because Captain Rainbow has Birdo. Birdos were always kind of intense. I say intense boss battle, but like dodging the egg and picking it up. Like that's a really good mechanic of using a boss's weapon against it. And of course, much like later on where there's that, I think it's 3D Land or 3D World where the flagpole at the end of a Mario stage runs away, to have that one where the bird, the creepy bird at the end of each stage just opens his mouth, they have to go in. Perfect sense, right? Like I didn't question this at all as a kid. But the one where it chases you, that was also a terrifying moment. Definitely originally Catherine Birdo, and this includes in Captain Rainbow. Okay, yeah, that's great. I do have Captain Rainbow, so I am going to have to play that at some point. It might be easier now that I know a little bit of Japanese. Her name remained unchanged in Wario's Woods. I never played Wario's Woods. Is that the Super Scope one or a different one? No, and I guess interestingly, I might have played Mario 2 before 3, but I didn't own it until after 3. I got it, I think, used from one of my friends at the time. So that's probably where I did play it, on his NES before I got one. But I experienced it after Mario 3 and Mario 1. So it's not like I just had Mario 1 and went to it. So like every one of the first 3 Marios are really different, but kind of like in trilogy style. I'd say the third one's closer to the first one. Okay, action puzzle on NES and Super Nintendo with Toad. All right.
According to their order.
I'll say it's very hard to like to play the future of games and the past of games at the same time. Have you ever played the real Super Mario Brothers 2? No, I haven't. Unless for some reason you count the NES cartridge, but no. Oh, Shy Guy in Japanese is hey-ho. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so no, I haven't played the real one. I guess there's always different pieces of Nintendo history to check out. Here I was wanting to go to MSX. Clearly there's more that I could do in the Nintendo space.
In the tree. So by setting the z-index to a higher value, like 5, we ensure that our player will always appear on top. And now if we play...
Oh, the lost levels of Super Mario Brothers 2. Yeah, the Japanese one. Yeah, I do have the Super Mario All-Stars Japanese one. That one's brutal. It's kind of cruel in a way. Like maybe if I go back to it, I can understand it more now, but I did not like that much. I just enjoyed better sprites in Mario 3.
We can see that our player passes in front of the platform. So our platform.
Okay. The lost level's cool. It's got different sprites, although I don't know. I think I prefer the original Super Mario Bros. 3 sprites, but it's a really neat idea. I guess kind of being like the first Nintendo remaster. Okay. See, we're passing in front of these now. So we'll see later in Godot if there's something like a global variable, so you can set like the different depths and then refer to them. Because right now that's just me writing it on the side and not a variable. Like that's me writing it just here. Maybe you can drag a variable to it. I think lost levels, of course there's different ways, but I wonder how much the cartridge is. Like there was probably a lot of them. Hello, Oscar. Oh, yes. So I heard a rumor Nintendo might be revealing Nintendo Switch 2. That was mostly by Nate the Hate, I believe. And on that day, you might be getting Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Yeah, I guess there's no rush for it. Hope you enjoy it. I'll probably not get that one. I'll probably focus on some of the other recent ones I missed out on. But it was a great game. But yeah, Nintendo Switch 2 Day, apparently this Thursday. We don't know for sure with the Japanese to North American time, because sometimes, there's like a 16-hour difference there. That could be the evening, but yeah, we kind of need to see. Although the rumor said mostly just a system reveal, probably similar to the Switch launch, but maybe with even less gameplay. Like it might just be hardware, more like current ones, and then like stay tuned later for more details. So that's where it gets less exciting, because I'm mostly excited about the games. Maybe if they show what the C button is. I was thinking about this. They have a big gap in like talking about missing the personality of Nintendo systems. But would you want personality and bad load times again? Or worse games? So it's tough to say. You might be pre-ordering Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Well, you don't, unless it's a physical one, of course. You don't have to pre-order. You can just pick it up, because there'll probably be tons of them. So you can hold on to your money in the meantime, or until closer to launch, but unless there's some crazy bonus they have. But yeah, that is an interesting one that I missed out on. So, although we'll see if they have the Switch 2 reveal, and its interest kind of goes down a bit, but we'll see what's in store. It has I think Don was saying there's some new characters in it, or like new story bits too, but the game itself is probably way too long for me to actually beat, but I could get a taste of Xenoblade finally.
Platform is working, but it's currently just hovering there. We might want some platforms to move around to increase difficulty. So let's use animation to do that. I'm going to leave this platform here as kind of a static platform. I'm just going to place it there. Then I'm going to place another platform over here by simply dragging it in. This is the platform that I would like to move back and forth. In fact,
okay, he's going to move one way over there, but I want, he's a back and forth. But I want it up and down. Boo. Well, it's really easy just to drag the player over and then come back later. Super Mario Maker style. Let's move some of these tiles. Yeah, Oscar, I'm trying a different game engine today. Okay. Now I'm tempted to program in the the magic carpet from Mario 2. I'm trying to think of what games I'm looking forward to this year right now, and I'm drawing a blank. It's one of those moments where I have all the games I want, and then anything else is going to be coming out on Switch too. Well, I guess. Oh yeah, Rift of the Necrodancer in February, and Mina the Hollower whenever that happens. Yeah, some of my friends' games. There, that covers them all. Okay, so I want to duplicate. Oh god, I drew a tile. Get out of there. I do appreciate the grid in the background to make it really different. What's next? Well, I guess thanks to everyone for hanging around. That's pretty nice. I would admittedly just do this by myself too, but it's kind of fun to show the process. Okay, we moved the platform. Let's see.
Let me just go into the tile map and make this gap even larger.
Yeah,
There
we
we
did
go.
that.
So to add animation to this platform only, we simply select it, add a new node, and we want to use an animation player. Let's hit create. And now we can add a
Okay, so that's neat. If you want a platform with different abilities, but still kind of reuse it, you can just add another node to it. Now, maybe there's like a parent and child inheritance thing that you can do back in here in the scene, or change it, but we'll see. Okay, let's see how we move.
new animation, and let's
Okay, let's add animation player in. Woo.
name that move. Animation players in Godot are extremely powerful because they allow us to animate pretty much anything. In this case, we just want to do something really simple. We want to go to our platform and make a keyframe under transform for the position. So I'll hit the key right here and hit create. Then we can go forward in our timeline here to say.
Okay, this is interesting. This is a bit like in Game Maker, I started using a path for movement, like when I used to animate it with math, but I think I read somewhere instead of using like a funny lerp, it's easier to just use a path tool and draw it. And I did that for when cars splash in lava, so they kind of like bob up and down. So if this is a handy way to do it, might as well see it. That becomes like so is that curse. Like you can keep doing tutorials forever, but like you shouldn't. You should start making your game, but then at the same time you should come back to tutorials when there's new features added in, because then you might miss out on stuff. Okay, we want. I'll go back 5 seconds and see.
Right here and
I'm missing where he's clicking.
frame under transform for the position. So I'll hit the key right here and hit create. Then we can go forward in our timeline here to say once.
I think I wasn't selected on move animation. That might have been the problem. But this looks different.
a keyframe under transform for the position. So I'll hit the key right here.
Oh no, is this like a different version of Godot? Or did I miss one option? Because I am not seeing a keyframe. Well, we'll go ahead a bit and see.
and hit create. Then we can go forward in our timeline here to say 1 second.
We'll see what happens. Just create an animation. Yeah, Oscar, I'm going to recreate it. This is technically a Brachy's tutorial. But I think after this, I'll be able to recreate it. So my WarioWare game was 2 glasses to do cheers, and you want to make it so you hit your glass under the other one. So it pours into it. So you end up with more beer. But yeah, after this, I should be able to make that. So it'll be interesting. I just want a simple goal to try to create a game in Godot, a different game engine I haven't used before, and kind of learn it. Kind of follow my own advice. So we'll see. So far, it seems pretty intuitive.
And move our platform to the right. So I'm going to click and drag.
Okay. Now we want to probably 1 second. That feels a little fast. But I will. Maybe I can stretch it out easily. It's probably something about adding a keyframe in. Here, now the key shows up. The thing I was missing before. So here we go. That's what I was missing. But now I need more time later on.
Back. I'm also going to hold down shift to kind of snap it to one axis. Let's move it to there. And let's add another keyframe. And now we can see that if we play, the animation plays.
Okay, so maybe once I move it here, add another keyframe. It does that, but can I move it? Yeah, there we go. I don't get why it's locked in like that, but we'll see. Maybe you can't see it, but below here there's like a time. Probably 4 seconds is a bit slow, but we'll see. See if it avoids that. Why? I might have to delete a frame. It kind of stops now in between.
We also want this to loop, so I'm going to select loop here. However, this is going to loop in a way that it snaps back to the original keyframe. And
Can you copy a keyframe with just Control C? we'll give it a little pause for half a second. Oh no, I'm copying like multiple copying multiple nodes. That's bad. Hopefully it's easy to edit keyframes. Sometimes these things can be picky. Okay, what position? 450, all right. I'll make sure it's the same there. So now it should go back and forth, but kind of wait. All right.
Instead, let's press it again, and now you can see that it's going to start ping-ponging back and forth. If this is currently too fast, we can simply increase the length of our animation. So here's the length. Let's set it to 1.5 instead, and drag our last keyframe to the end. And there we go. We now have a moving platform. Let's just make sure that we set it to autoplay, and now when we play the game and go to the place where we made our platform, we can see that it's moving back and forth. And if we jump...
Okay, there's an autoplay button, which is kind of buried under me right now, but let's stop and take a look. Well, this is a little... I'm gonna have to maybe make the screen size bigger. No! What is the key just to reload? Oh, just F5 again. Can I walk onto it or will I fall through the crack? That's nice. Oh! Can I beat my own Can I beat my own game? That is nice having the tiles to catch me. But I have to fill in that whole area to be more friendly. My spacebar sucks. It's kind of worn out. I have to press it more in the middle.
Jump onto it, the player will smoothly follow it. Really cool. And there's already so much you can do with this. Next up, pickups. Now let's add a coin that we can pick up. Again, we start by creating a new scene. Let's create a new node, and let's this time...
Okay, this is good because it allows for basically the moment of like enemies being able to hit you, because if you're able to pick something up, it's easy to kind of reverse it in that order. We'll see. It's kind of like all we need to know. I guess in my game, I could move one of those platforms as a beer glass. And use it like that, kind of hooked up to... Well, I guess it could be a player with a automatic move animation, and then I'll have to just update it with a button to move forward. Okay, let's make it the resolution a little bigger. A little wider. And I'll be back in just a second. Put out my smoothie cup before it hardens. So I'll be in a minute for maybe like another hour or so. I'm back. No, Peach, yeah, I can see that being confusing. Uh, no, it's just using the music to best I could. So, yeah, I'll check what version that was for late Park and Panic later. It'd be funny, but oh, and of course the random, probably spam call in between there. But now, so we are now.
And search for area 2D. This is a type of node that we use whenever we don't.
Okay, we're now making a pickup. Yeah, maybe I can take a quick look. No, I can't. If I go click it again, I'll go back to the BRB screen. So I'll find out after the stream.
Want to collide with other objects, but instead we just want to define an area.
Okay, so this is creating a new scene for a pickup. I wanted area 2D. I didn't want that. Okay.
In which we can detect collisions. So we simply use this to detect if another body enters, such as the player character. Let's create an area 2D. Let's also add some graphics. So Control A, search for sprite, and we'll select the animated sprite. Under animation, let's add some new sprite frames. Select it, and let's load in from a sprite sheet here. I'm going to use the coin.png, zoom in on this, and this only has one grid cell on the vertical and horizontally.
This is just getting to the point where he's going faster than where I can find stuff. This is how quick somebody could probably just throw everything together if they know what they're doing in Godot. Can I drag it here? Yep. That's probably not the way to do it. Undo. Let me just.
On this, and this, I'm gonna sprite frames, select it, and let's load in from a sprite sheet here.
It's weird. He's just clicking down there and he's loading it in. I see what he's doing there. I hate that.
New sprite frames.
Okay.
Select it, and let's load in from a sprite sheet here.
Oh, that button. All right. That's not too bad to get the hang of.
I'm going to use the coin.png, zoom in on this, and this only has one grid cell on the vertical, and horizontally it has 12. And now we can click from left to right, or simply click and drag and add the frames. Let's hit F and.
Okay, resizing it. That. That is much too small. I think I got it backwards. Yeah, so choosing 12 horizontal frames, 1 vertical for the size of this grid. It looks 16 by 16 already. Although I could add a separator. And it's going to just rotate around in 3D, I guess. That's really tiny. Zoom in.
And zoom in. Set the FPS to 10 and hit play. And that's our coin animation. Let's make sure that this autoplays. And just like a normal physics body, an area 2D also needs a collision shape. So let's add a collision shape 2D. And then for the shape, let's just choose a
Okay. Now, following with him and adding something so we can actually run into it. Oh, that's great. You found it. I'm glad. The music. It's hard to keep track of all the different versions of things. I wonder how far ahead in this turkey. He has dying as like an end state. He has an enemy. Player is way another 20 minutes ahead for some code changes. Oh, it's a title placeholder for Carpoon before the game had destruction ahead. Okay, here's our coin. Might as well be generous to the player.
circle shape, decrease the radius a bit, and that's actually all we need. So let's select our area and rename it to coin and save the scene. And now we can simply drag it into our game. So under scenes, I'll take the coin and place it around the level. You can always use Control D to duplicate. And now if we play, we can see that the coin is here, but nothing happens if we enter the area. So it's time to make our first script. So in our coin scene, we select the coin node and hit add script. This time for the template, let's just choose the default template. And for the path, let's make sure that this goes under the scripts folder. I'll create, and this is what it looks like when we create.
I look away for a second and all of a sudden it's like the tutorial has gone way ahead to something new. Oh, so this is what happens. Something I have to be careful of. I have coins in coins here. That'd be a funny bug. So I'm kind of dragging them. That's handy though to have that, like when you want things rotating around other things. Just like have to find a quicker way to duplicate stuff. Well, Control D is probably the easy way instead of Control C. Okay. Now we'll go back to the script though. That is not the script I want. Okay, so scripts seem to be everything. That'll be interesting to see how they, you know, kind of keep apart further along. Let me make sure I add this in the right place.
So in our coin scene, we select the coin node and hit add script. This time for the template, let's just choose the default template. And for the path, let's make sure that this goes under the scripts.
Okay, I think I got that set up right.
I'll create, and this is what it looks like when we create a default script in Godot. We can see that we've created the script on an Area 2D node, and that it's automatically made two functions for us that we often use: ready and process. Currently, both of them only have the pass keyword, which means do nothing. So this script, if we run it, will do absolutely nothing. Now, the ready function is called right when our node enters the scene tree, which is just at the start of the game. So we can put code here that we want to happen immediately. Let's try it out by printing a quick message to see if it's working. So I'm gonna write print, then in parentheses and quotes, I'm going to put I'm a coin. And if we play now, The print doesn't do anything in our game, but it does show our message, I'm a coin, in the output window.
Output's always super handy for debugging. I hope I can figure out the Godot debugger more than I did in Game Makers. But yes. Like being able to print them and see if different messages are happening makes it handy. Like in Game Maker, I did even add it so they print text by the variables to keep track of it. Because one thing about Game Maker, if I have a full screen, it opens right up over Game Maker. I have to then drag Game Maker to another monitor. That was one issue I had with its debugger.
This is also referred to as the console and is where we see messages such as prints and errors. However, you might also notice that the message displays multiple times. That's because we currently have multiple coins around our game, and the script runs for each and every one. So since we have 5 coins, it displays I'm a coin 5 times. But we don't want anything to happen when we start the game, so I'm actually just going to remove these 2 functions. Instead, we only want to do something once our player enters the coin area. And for this...
Okay, did he just delete everything? Well, I was trying to be clever, typing a funny message.
To happen when we start the game. So I'm actually just going to remove these 2 functions. Okay. Instead, we only want to do something once our player enters the coin area. And for this, we use a signal. Signals allow us to trigger code based on events that happen in our game. Godot has many built-in signals we can use. If we select our Area 2D node and go to the Node tab, we can see all the signals on this node. We want to use the body entered signal, which is triggered.
So extends Area 2D. I'm not seeing anything under signals. For me, it's kind of just blank.
On this node. We can go to many built-in signals we can use.
Okay.
If we select our Area 2D node and go to the Node tab, we can see all this.
Maybe it's in... Yeah, inspect. Might be an inspector. Okay. Oscar says, this summer from June 6th to June 8th, the mobile Pokemon Go is having a big live event called Pokemon Go Fest 2025 and taking in your hometown in Jersey. Well, that'd be fun. You get to go outside. That's the thing I do appreciate at Pokemon Go, like getting people to go out and about. Like, it was great for that. Same kind of with Pikmin Bloom. It's kind of amazing how it's continuing to go on. And I do regret not trying Pokemon Go at first and missing out on that giant initial wave. Oh, I hope you have fun. That'll be right after my birthday.
Our Area 2D node and go to the Node tab, we can see all the signals on.
I'm missing out what he's doing here. Okay, you click coin. I got coin in the scripts. Okay, I had to click down lower. I had to click down lower in here in Area 2D. I had to click one of these, and then it would show up in Node, which you can't see behind me.
Area 2D node and go to the Node tab, we can see all the signals on this node. We want to use the body entered signal, which is triggered whenever a physics body enters the area. Since our player has a character body 2D node, this is going to trigger the signal.
That's just prime for a bad joke, but let's have some taste here.
No. So to connect it, we simply double click it and hit connect.
Okay, well, I'm connecting to the right thing. Okay, so this is probably just something that'd be super easy to add on yourself later, is my guess.
As you can see, this creates a new function in our script called onBodyEntered with a green arrow that shows that this is triggered by a signal. So let's here try writing a print function that says something like +1 coin. Now when we play and enter the coin area, it's going to print +1 coin. However, this message will actually display no matter which body enters
Whoa.
the area.
Okay, so we'll see what the catch is here, but it's going to be for every coin when you enter, I believe. Probably. It has to be able to differentiate them. No, I didn't have it set up yet. Maybe I didn't save? Because it's not printing in my console just yet. I might have connected the wrong thing. Let's try again. Okay, so this is when any no TD 2D enters it. That's interesting. I'm gonna go back and check, 'cause this is kind of important to get right for collision detection. Oh, is there?
So to connect it, we simply double click it and hit connect.
Yeah, and you said coin. That's kind of what I had. I'll copy this. I'm going to try it again. Okay, so it is choosing the player. I think that's everything.
As you can
Did I
see, this
type
creates
the
a new
statement
function
wrong?
in our script called onBodyEntered with a green arrow that shows
I might
that
have.
this is
So I'm
triggered
still new
by
to
a
coding
signal.
this.
So let's here try writing a print function that says something like +1
Let me see.
coin. Now when we play,
Now, kind of only other than it's a print. I think I did it. Oh man. Oh, the collision shape. There's a problem here in the collision shape. I think the collision shape somehow got under animated sprite. So that's why I wasn't actually colliding with it. And so the node structure got wrong. That's why I wasn't detecting. Let's take a look. See if it's printing now. Yay, coin, coin. It's actually too... The player's collision is not high enough to touch it, though. That'll be interesting to fix later. We'll see if I have to stretch it out or if there's actually a special sprite detection method.
and into the coin area, it's going to print +1 coin. However, this message will actually display no matter which body enters the area. If we take one of these coins here and put it in the way of a moving platform, for example.
Yeah, still making progress. I got it. So a coin detects if the player touches it right now. I don't know. I don't know if I actually get to the WarioWare part of today. I could try to make one of the beer mugs move separately at the end. But yeah, chipping away. I'll probably get halfway through this. Yeah, then I have to stop to do some other work, but we'll see. I can come back to this as a series, I guess.
Well, this will also trigger the message.
No,
So now,
I've
right
been
when we play, we
pretty
can see
impressed by
that
it so far.
It starts displaying the message, and will do so every time the platform passes through the area. To change this, we can either use code to check what body enters the area, or we can simply put our player on a separate physics layer. Let's try that out. So under our player, we'll go to the inspector.
No, no need to apologize because I think I would have been struggling a lot in the Wario plans. We'll just do this as part of the process, and it'll make it easier to go to Wario after. It'll probably make it way quicker to go to Wario. I could probably be able to get stuff moving super fast.
Go to collision, and here we can change the physics layer from layer 1 to 2. Let's hit.
Oh, so that's how that happens. So that would be pretty handy. Now, as long as you can shift the physics layer on the fly, that'd be really neat. Okay, we're going to change it to... Oh, you can have multiple layers. Well, I'll change it to layer 2. And this way the coins will only detect the player, not other Area 2D objects.
Control S to save, and then in our coin, we can also go under collision. We can actually have the coin itself stay on layer 1. We don't need a separate layer for that yet, but we want to make sure that it only detects colliders in layer 2. For this, we use the mask. The mask defines what layers a node collides with. So let's set that to layer 2.
Okay, so it could be on a different collision layer than what it detects. That's neat.
Because that's the layer that our player is on. That should actually do it. Now our coin will only detect collisions from our player. And instead of just displaying a message, let's
make sure it still works in case I come back to it way later and it doesn't. Oh. I need a new keyboard. Yeah, it's working. We can duplicate a coin down lower too. No, I don't want to duplicate the tile map.
Let's also remove the coin from our scene when we pick it up. So in our script, after printing one coin, let's add a new line. We'll call the queue_free function, which is simply going to remove the entire coin scene from our game. And indeed it does. And our knight can now start gathering some coin. Now, depending on what type of loot we pick up, we want different things to happen. In this case, I want to display a score that increases when we pick up a coin. But we'll look at that when we...
That's interesting. It kind of... Does it force me to... Yeah, what's the error here? Unexpected identifier in class body. So if you don't organize it correctly, like if you don't shift tab or tab, it'll just say it's not part of it because there's no brackets. So that's a bit different. It forces you to program it one way. But let's see if they delete now. Cube free is also kind of a weird name for that, but. Yep, they're gone.
We get to text. First, I think something a bit more pressing is dying and restarting our game. Dying 1.0. So we happily move along in our world until suddenly we miss a jump and fall into the abyss. And then nothing happens. Let's change that. The first thing we want to do is limit our camera so that it doesn't follow our player when we fall down. Luckily, this is really easy to do. We simply select our camera.
Okay, well, this will be handy, especially for not having to restart all the time. I'm also going to turn off the heat. It's finally cold in Canada. Finally got to freezing.
Under the player, go under limit, and here we can set a position limit for the left, top, right, and bottom part.
I guess I'll ask for anyone watching, when I continue on this, would you guys prefer if I go through the tutorial on my own and then have more knowledge to work on the WarioWare game, or if I continue the tutorial on a stream, just so everyone kind of sees how to do it, even though I'm going to paste it in the description and anyone can do the tutorial at any time.
Part of our camera. In our case, we need to set a limit for the bottom position. To do this, we can use the ruler tool here at the top, or simply press R and measure from this baseline here to where we would like the limit of our camera to be. I think a good value would be somewhere around, say, 1.
That's a neat tool. It's a lot easier than just putting in a bunch of numbers. Where to go? I think I am not in the right area to make this work. Okay.
Position. To do this, we can use the ruler tool here at the top, or simply press R and measure from this baseline here to where we would like the limit of our camera to be. I think a good value would be somewhere around, say, 120. So I'll simply go back to select mode and put in 120 pixels on the bottom.
Okay, so you do have to do it manually, but it lets you know.
I'm also going to enable smoothing, and now when we play, we can see that our camera will follow the player, but whenever we fall off, it's simply going to stay put. Next, we need to detect that our player has entered a dangerous area and restart the game. In other words, we need to create a kill zone. I'll show you a really cool way to do this that allows us to reuse the same.
I think the bottom is more like 0 here. I created my level a bit higher than what they did. What Brackies did. I'll try 40. And if I want it so maybe you don't see the bottom of the tiles. Wow, you still do. Anyway, that's fine.
Kill zone for more than just falling off the map, such as for spike traps, enemies, all kinds of elements of danger. And when we want to create a reusable element, we start by making a scene. Then to detect if we enter an area, we again use the area 2D node, and let's make sure to set the collision mask.
Okay, this is kind of like Game Maker, just opening up a bunch of objects at the top. to work on. So a scene instead of an object. And it's kind of handier to see it on the right. Maybe there's a different inspector, but let's say whenever I want to add in a new thing to it, I have to kind of go CPU toggle, and I kind of have to see it back in the main workspace to add different events. Like this is an inspector for the overall game. Oh, I guess I can add events way down at the bottom. It's like, oh, I've only been using this for like 5 or 6 years, and oh wait, there's a different way to do it and see things. So it's kind of similar there, although I think it's a bit more straightforward in Godot. This is also really tiny. You kind of need more space.
Here to 2, we only want to check for the player, which is...
So Oscar, I'll say you're going to the Pokemon Go event. I think this March there's a small Tokyo Indies event that I'll probably go to. I think it's the second weekend of March. And yeah, that's the one I'll go to next. See some different indie games over there.
On layer 2. And we want add a collision shape here. That's because we want to be able to
Hello, Zach. How you doing? Thank you for dropping by. How's your new year been? I guess it's a bit late for me to say Happy New Year, but I wish you the best in 2025. Oh, now I'm writing your name. That doesn't make any sense, but no. Yeah, I'm trying. I wanted to set a goal of creating a different project in Godot and like the other things. So I thought it'd be a fun stream instead of just doing Carpoon all the time. So, but Hayden had a great suggestion to follow this tutorial, so I'm going to do it and then eventually make my game where I had these two. This is my WarioWare DIY game where there'd be 2 beer mugs and they'd kind of go up and down. This is an easy way to illustrate it. And while the computer, I think the computer's is going up and down, and then mine would be going up and down. And when you press a button, it'll go out and you try to hit it, and you try to hit lower. So the computer then like pours some beer into your mug. That was my silly WarioWare game. And if you go above, you lose. So yeah, trying it in Godot. So, oh well, thank you very much. I'm glad it's been good. Yeah. And maybe I can add a bit more to this. Then it's like one of those easy goals to be like, well, then it's done. I don't have to worry about it. No, thank you. I looked at my old... I brought out my old DS. It's like earlier in the stream, and I looked at the game itself, and I had remastered it in my mind for what it was. Kind of like the difference of Ocarina of Time 3DS compared to the original one. So, yeah. Yeah, and Peach is the musician for Carpoon, and also did a lot of WarioWare in the day, so I'll have to see that later. WarioWare DIY. Where you made your own WarioWare games. No, but yeah, it's like I suggested to people for making mini games. Some people, first of all, it's like having the option to do anything can be daunting. Like sometimes that's why game jam's great. It sets you like maybe a theme to pick. So making a WarioWare game with like one action or one simple movement and being very small kind of fits the whole scope creep in games that, you know, affects pretty much everyone. So it's an easy way just to get to learn a new platform. go, Peachy, on your channel. Okay, I'll have to go to your channel later, too. Because I know I saw them at one point, but it's just been a while. Okay, I gotta save this as a new... we'll see what it calls this. This is programming a zone for the player to die when they fall off the world map. Oh, I'll show you one other funny drawing I did lately. That is part of the scope creep of Carpoon. Let me try to find it here. It's somewhere. Oh, did I lose it? Nope, I didn't. This is... I have to edit it a bit. This is my new greatest work for Smash Brothers clapping for the end of a match. I also have to draw a car being happy, though. But anyway. There's a lot of people drawing around. It's like, I want to draw something. So. Thank you, Peach. Yeah, it's like I had to visualize how to get tires clapping. But anyway, let's go back to dying in Godot in a video game. Not to be taken out of context. And maybe that'll be kind of it for today. We'll see.
Use this for all kinds of elements that
Well, I'll try to get... Maybe I'll try to get the mug working, but...
might have different shapes. Instead, let's simply go ahead and rename this now to Kill Zone and save it as a new scene.
Okay, I added the wrong type of node, I think. We want area 2D, yeah. This can go above it. Maybe. No. This is easy enough to start over. And we'll save the scene. Okay. Killzone, that is a PlayStation game that has been around for a while. So I think, was that Insomniac or... Yeah, I think that was Insomniac, not the other studio that Sony has. The one that made Ghost of Tsushima.
Then in our game scene, we can add it by dragging it in or simply pressing the link button here and selecting the kill zone. And then in here, we'll add the collision shape.
Okay, that makes sense. So I don't have to guess about the collision. See, this is these coins now have... I wish I can create a folder for them. Maybe I can? Because that would be unmanageable on a whole level. Okay, once I save it, it should appear here. Yeah, this is where it starts becoming unwieldy, and this is only day one. Oh yeah, Peach, you should certainly upload your microgames to your channel, or even if it's like one compilation video.
So I'm gonna hit Control A, collision shape. And for the shape, we'll use the same world boundary shape that we used earlier for the ground. Now let's make sure to select the kill zone node itself, go into...
Okay, gonna use world boundary just for a line. So below this line, the player should detect it once it's passed, and they can then respawn the player.
Ground. Now let's make sure to select the kill zone node itself, go into move, and use the move tool to position it down here.
Wait a minute, why? Oh, I added way more coins than Brachy's did. and platforms. That's why that was way cleaner. Okay.
Here at the bottom. I'm gonna place it pretty far down so we're sure we don't hit this by accident. Or I mean, we're gonna be hitting it by accident, so let's make sure we don't hit it on purpose. Or I mean, I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna place it down here a good bit away from our level. And now we can add a script to make something happen when we enter the area. So in our kill zone, let's select it, add a new script. For the template here, I'm just gonna select empty, and the path, let's put it under the scripts folder. And now we have this empty script to play with. I'm gonna connect a signal, so go node, make sure we have the kill zone node selected.
This is where it gets tricky.
And again, we'll use the body entered signal. So let's double click it, hit connect, and it's going to create a new function on body entered, in which case we can go ahead and print that you died. And now if we play and jump down, it's going to print that we died. Now instead...
Okay, now we'll have to figure out how to hook it up to the player. Let's take a look though. Make sure that's working. Yeah, I did not die, but it's probably, he's going to get to the physics layers, I bet. See if I can fix that way over here in collision layers. Probably want layer 1 and 2. I think mask 1 and 2 is the ones we want affected. Let me see if I'm predicting that right. Yeah, that works. Great.
Instead of immediately restarting the game, let's add a small delay. We do this using another node called the timer node.
So, Peach, it was funny you mentioning, you finally seen the video that Linus and the tournament I had for Carpoon at LTX, because yesterday he was on Jimmy Fallon. It's like, what? What is this? Well, good for him, but I'll have to watch it later. That's certainly coming a long way. Neat to see.
Node. So let's add a new node, search for timer, and under the inspector here, we can choose some different things about it. Let's set the wait time to something like 0.6 second.
Okay, make sure I'm in the right scene here to add in a timer. So this is nice. Maybe you can have as many timers as you want, because in Game Maker it's limited to 11, which admittedly I run out of and then had to program them myself. So if you can have as many timers as you want, that's great. Timers are very handy. Oh, yes, Peach. No worries. Always thank you for dropping by, and thank you for all your Carpoon work recently. Yeah, I look forward to hearing that remix of Gruntilda's Lair, because it was already sounding really good. Yeah, it's nice you're finishing all your projects this year. And late last year, too. Okay, how do I add a timer? Probably here. I know I'll probably forget later. I'll be like looking in the wrong spot where to add something. It'll be on the right. So we'll see.
Let's also make it a one shot to make sure that it doesn't loop.
Okay, 0.6. One shot, that's good. So you don't have to worry about like killing a player twice as they're falling down. That's something that happens. That's what timers are useful for in Game Maker. When they run down to zero, like all the actions only happen once, as I'm sure anyone knows here. So when the timer runs down, it's going to do all this. That's something I had problems in Game Maker at first when I'd be repeating things. And that's why I had probably, if I knew more about that, it would have been easier while figuring out harpooning. That was something I had trouble with at first.
We can then start this timer in our code. To do that, however, we first need a reference to it. Luckily, that's as simple as going to the top of our code, clicking and dragging the timer node, and holding down Control while releasing. This creates a variable called timer
That's
that
handy.
automatically finds the node using this path. Now, if you haven't worked with paths before, they are actually quite simple. They specify a way to get from one node to another.
Oh, that's not a
in the
comment.
tree.
How do you do a comment? Oh no. How do you do a comment? Okay, yeah, I think they had it earlier, I think. There, it's a pound key. Always handy to leave comments in your code. At least for me.
So if we look at this example tree, to get from the game node to the camera, the path looks like this. It goes through the player and ends with the camera. And in our case, where we just want to get from the kill zone to the timer right underneath, we don't have to go through any other nodes, so the path is simply timer. Again, right now we're brushing over concepts such as variable.
That might be tricky later, having to worry about node structure in this. It's something I don't have to do in Game Maker. We'll see. This is early on. And I guess we'll figure out killing the player without killing the camera.
And functions pretty briefly. But you can learn more about programming and what all this really means in our upcoming video on GDScript. For now, just know that using this click and drag method, we can now access our timer node using the name timer. So to start our timer, we make a new line.
I will say it's stuff like this, referencing other objects and variables. That once you get through that, it's much easier to program a game. That's part of everything communicating to each other.
And write timer dot start. Of course, we now need to trigger some code when our timer runs out. And again, we can use a signal for this. So with our timer node selected, let's go under node, and here's the timeout signal. So let's double click that and hit connect. And this creates a new function called onTimerTimeout that runs when the timer ends. And then in here, we can
It's pretty handy having all these variables on the side. Because in Game Maker, sometimes you have to reference kind of like the manual separately, I find. So to have a lot of things there, that maybe makes it easier. Although Game Maker has some functions. It's more of a function than a variable, but it seems like a neat way to do it.
restart our game. To do this, we first access the scene tree, so get tree, and tell it to reload, so reload current scene. So our player enters the kill zone and triggers the onBodyEntered function. This prints a message that we died and starts the timer.
Okay.
When the timer runs out, it triggers the onTimerTimeout
They're just
function,
refreshing the
which then
scene.
reloads our scene and restarts the game. And indeed, when we play and jump off the map,
Kind of like what I do at the end of a Carpoon match. I basically just reset the game. Which isn't the best, but it works. Alright, let's see if it resets after, yep, 0.6 seconds. I might make it even faster, but it's nice. Whoa! That's an interesting collision detection bug. It's how you get the secret warp in this game, but you can't jump up after. It's a Mario 1 style level cheat. Whee! Yep. Oh yeah, and saved saved by my little tile. See the moving platform again, just to see how far we've come in just one day.
we fall down and the scene restarts. Great! It's an infinite loop. Help me! I'm stuck! World Building 2.0. Let's expand on our game world a bit now that we have more elements to work with. First of all, I want to make sure that we stay organized. So let's take some of these nodes and categorize them. The easiest way to do this is...
Okay, this, yeah, he's realizing this is kind of the moment where It's easy for the project to get out of control. As seen here, my way more coins that I've added.
By simply adding a new node. For this one, I'm just going to select the base node here, hit create, and now we can rename this. I'll make one for, say, coins, and simply take all of the coins and drag them under that node.
Okay, so it's basically like folders, but maybe an easy way to... Maybe you can search under nodes while in the game itself. Like search a particular node. We'll create one probably for platforms.
We can do the same thing for platforms and any other elements that are cluttering up your scene. Now I'm going to paint in a bit more level and change the things that I don't like. And I'll put in some more gameplay elements.
Okay,
I'll
that's
also paint
cheating
some
with fast forward.
tiles. But to do this, we need to add another layer to our tile map. So not under our tile set, but under the tile map itself, we have...
Wait, what's he trying to do?
I'll also paint in some background tiles. But to do this, we need to add another layer to our tile map. So not under our tile set, but under the tile map itself, we have...
Okay, if we're lucky, he'll even go to parallax, but we'll see. Let's head back to the tile set. He does get into an enemy right in the next chapter. That'd be very handy for me to have it like the enemy for the beer mug in the WarioWare game. And I think later he'll go into coding the player more deliberately. So I think those two sections make it much easier.
We have this layers, and this is the one we've been painting in. Let's just call this mid for midground and add...
Okay, let me check my layers, which are kind of hidden under me. I'll go here.
another one that we can call background.
Well, that's kind of neat.
Let's move this to the top to make sure that it's drawn first. And now when painting, we need to select the right layer to paint on.
Okay, so moving to the top so it's drawn first because it's done by order of drawing what gets drawn first in the game, and not kind of like, oh, midground is on top of background. Okay.
So let's select the background.
Yeah, easy to choose which one. Let's go back to the world itself. In the background. This will be a lot of copy and pasting, I bet.
And then we can start painting in some background tiles. A nice trick here is to use the rectangle tool to paint in a lot of tiles at once.
I wasn't able to draw the tile just yet though, so we'll see about that. Oh, I just didn't select it yet. Here we go. I'll still be alive in that spot in those tiles. Yeah, now I'll just copy like he's saying, and can make even a bigger grid below it. The camera probably won't scroll down past that, but we'll see. Yeah. How do you deselect? Yeah, way quicker. Yeah, let's do the sky. That's moving them. You can probably just select a huge patch. Get the drag and select. Probably it's gonna be a darker sky up top.
And now our game looks a lot better. It has a background and a whole new part of the level that we can explore. And of course, this process is just about trying things out and making changes until you're satisfied. Enemy. A proper hero, of course, needs a good enemy. So let's make one. Let's create a new scene. And since this enemy doesn't need to collide with anything, we can just go ahead and use a Node 2D as the base. Let's also add an animated sprite. So I'll search for animated sprite 2D. Let's go to animation and some new sprite frames. Select them and let's load in from the sprite sheet here. In the pack there's both a green and a purple version of the enemy. I'm just going to choose the green one. And this is a 4x3. And I've included 3 animations here, one for the enemy kind of waking up, an aggressive idle animation as well.
I'll just finish off this sky, and we'll take a look at how it is. I also got a paint bucket. That'll be that's way quicker too if you have an area to fill. I don't want to do that because it blocks out more of it than I want. Okay, let's take a look at the sky. It's come along pretty far, pretty quickly. That's nice. This guy really knows how to do good tutorials with brackies. Player 2.0 will probably change the direction it faces, depending on movement.
As well as one where the enemy takes.
I think, though, that might be as far as I can go today because I kind of have a short day with hockey tonight. So this... I think for next time I'll get assets ready for the beer mug, which they kind of are. But I'll get a background ready. You can see. Well, thank you very much, Hayden. Yeah, I appreciate the suggestion. It's really good. Now, so my question to you, would you prefer someone watching this, me to finish the stream on my own time, or continue the Brackies game jam by myself and come back straight to the WarioWare mini game. But no, thank you. It was really great, really neat. I hope you're able to finish this tutorial yourself too pretty soon and not have any problems. And yeah, it's been fun. I'm going to try one more time at the end of the stream. So yeah, Carpoon, of course, still working on. This is going to be a different side project. Okay, you didn't need to do whatever you think is best there. Definitely what you want. Yeah, I'll see how it goes. I might try it and just have it back for reference. We'll see. And I'll be sure to paste the Brackies link below. It's really handy. Yeah, it definitely shows the power of like working with some assets to begin with to quickly prototype something. Don't look at the sky ending. And the platform, being able to jump through it one way, that's really clever of Godot. Me, I'm most impressed by that foresight. Well, that's it. Thank you everyone for dropping by. Have a great rest of your week. And I think depending on how projects go, I should be back next Tuesday. Take care, everyone. And until next time, goodbye. Now to figure out where OBS is.